Hey guys, Matt from Crank Engineering, and I think it's about time we did a series of videos on painting. Okay, I've had this old, I think it's a Kawasaki tank for a lot of years, and I found it on a scrap heap, so I promptly stripped all the paint off the top, not the bottom, and figured I'd use it as an exercise for teaching myself how to do a bit of paint work. So now's about a good time to do it. So for the exercise and this series of videos, we're going to take this tank, do some repairs and give it a coat of paint. And then once we figure out where it comes from, maybe I'll give it away as a promo, because I don't know what it's off and I've got no real use for it. So this tank has got a couple of decent dents in it. That's a pretty big one. And this one's a little bit smaller. And other than that, it's pretty straight. So we'll use this as our test bed, and I'll demonstrate all the techniques and tools and tips and stuff you're going to need to do a paint job on a tank or a fender or one of your other motorcycle project parts. Okay, so the first decision you need to make is what's the end finish going to look like on your project bike, because that will dictate the process you need to use for painting, and then that will dictate how you prepare the tank or the fender or whatever it is for that paint job. So if you're looking for just a straight, simple, single color finish, then you could use something like an acrylic paint, which these are just touch-up paints really for cars. These particular colors are just generic colors, but something like this works just fine. So you need to use a matching preparation system for an acrylic paint. And in this particular case, you'd need something like an acrylic primer, and Putty, I'll talk about that in a second. So acrylic needs a matching primer system. If you're looking for maybe some pinstriping or some hand lettering, or you wanted to do something like this and do a metal flake on your tank, then you're going to most likely use either an enamel-based paint system or a two-part system, so a base coat and a clear coat. So if you're using, say, one-shot sign enamels or lettering enamels for, say, some pinstriping or some hand lettering on your tank, these are enamels, so that's oil-based, and you need to select the primers and everything that go with it. So here's an enamel primer that would suit an enamel paint. Now those work great on steel surfaces like a tank or a fender. If you're painting something like aluminium or some other metal, then you might need an etch primer, and that's designed specifically to provide a key onto the surface that the paint can stick to. So all these products are designed to, primer products are designed to give the paint something to stick to. So you just need something specific if you're painting a product other than steel. Now I am going to assume for this exercise that we're painting a small surface like a tank or a fender, and you don't have an air compressor and you don't have a spray gun, which is quite a bit more of an expense. So all these products are obviously available in tins as well, so that you can use them in a spray gun. And this is the sort of products I use both in can and in tins, so that I can spray small parts with a aerosol can or large surfaces with a tin product. So again, we'll just work on the basis that everyone's just going to be using aerosol cans. Okay, so once we've decided on our final finish, or what the vision of the final finish will be, select our paint system, and I'll put some links in the articles so that you can go and do a bit more research, and then we start working our way back. So in this case, we've got a tank that's been stripped already. If you haven't done the stripping, you might want to use a paint stripper and just get some, disposable cheap $2 packet of brushes. Use these to apply the paint stripper and then chuck them out. In this case, tank's already been stripped, but it is rusty. So I'm going to have to come back and use an angle grinder, and I'm going to use a wire wheel and an angle grinder, and I'm going to clean all that surface rust off and give me a bare metal surface to work on. So I've got a video and an article about using angle grinders for that purpose, which I will link to somewhere. So the first step, once we've cleaned off all the rust, will be to fill these dents. So to do that, we're going to need a polyester filler, so a body filler. So this is two parts, so there's the filler and then there's a hardener. So we're going to mix those together, and we can use something like this applicator, which is $1 or so. You can use any piece of plastic, but this is pre-curved and it's beveled on the edges, front edge here, so that you can use it to apply the filler. So this goes straight on to the metal. Once we've done that, we're going to need to sand it flush with the other surfaces around the dent. So we're going to need some sandpaper to do that. This is the sort of products I use for that. These are designed to use dry. This is aluminium oxide sandpaper. I buy it in a roll because it's way more economical in a roll. And just tear off what you need. And then we use this in various grits to sand that body filler back to the surface level of the tank. So this is an 80 grit. I've got some 180, I really need a 240 as well. And then I've got a 400 only in the paper format because that's what's available. So I'll use these to sand the body filler back flush with the surface of the tank. So once we've done that, then we can use our primers and prime the tank. If we need to fill any minor imperfections, you'd use a spray putty, which we'll demonstrate as well. And then once that's done, then we worry about our final finish in our top coat. So other than that, a few other things you might need. Safety wise first, just keep your hands clean. Black nitrile gloves I find are a really good solution. So you just buy a packet of those from the hardware store. While you're sanding, you might need some dust masks. That stuff is pretty fine. You don't really want to be breathing it in. If you are spraying nasties with an air compressor and a spray gun like a 2-pack paint system, you really need a respirator just to keep the gas vapors out of your lungs. So something like that would do the job. And if you're trying to protect other surfaces like the fuel filler hole on the tank, you'll need some tape. So I use just a painter's tape, green painter's tape, something like these in different sizes and widths and everything, and some masking paper, which is just out of the painting section of the hardware store. You can use newspaper, it does the same job. Sometimes the thin strips are a bit more convenient. And if you were masking out lines, for example, say we put a stripe down the center of that tank, you'd use a tape like this for masking out the straight and sharp edges of the line that you're trying to paint. And once we've applied paint, then we're probably going to want to do a bit of a polish job on it as well. So if you're doing sanding of the painted surfaces, you'll generally be doing those wet. So the sandpaper's wet, you've got water on the surface, and that helps the paper not clog or add any more scratches to your surface. So I just got one of these cheap office file things, and I put all my sandpaper in that. So I've got all my different grades of wet and dry paper, which is this black stuff. And I've got that all set up in this container so I can grab a sheet when I need it. So I just generally buy it in sheet format and then just trim it down to 1/3 sheet for using with a sanding block while I'm wet sanding a painted surface. So I've got these in grits. These are, I think, 80. So they're the coarse ones, 80, and I've got them all the way up to 2000. So 2000 would be the finest sandpaper you might use before you turn to a liquid polish. So we'll try and demonstrate all of that on this tank as well. So that's probably enough for today to get us started. So first step is just think about what the final finish is that you're looking for, and then we'll have to work backwards to get to that product. So I'll put some links and a bit of a checklist in the article somewhere, and that'll give you an idea of what sort of gear you might need before you get started. So thanks for watching so far. Plenty more videos in this series to come.